Hello and welcome back to Minecraft. Today we are in a creative test world because I was asked to help explain villager breeding delivery capture systems, but in order to do that we need to also touch on two entities, entity cramming hitboxes, and how they interact with each other. Now this sounds like a large heavy topic, but once you break it down into its parts, it's not so bad. It's like playing a musical instrument. Once you understand the key fundamentals of how a piano keyboard works and where the keys are, it just takes practice. So, because we have lots to cover, let's get started. So the first thing to understand when it comes to any type of mob farm or breeding system, as it were in this particular case, is understanding a basic fundamental of how mobs in the world work. For instance, this cow is considered an entity, and you can hit it and interact with it and it runs away. Same thing goes with any animal you put in the world or naturally spawns in the world, like this chicken over here. It has a hitbox that you can interact with. Now, normally in Bedrock, you cannot see these hitboxes, but in the Java edition, which is what I'm currently in, there is a keyboard command where you can. So now we can see the hitbox of this chicken. If I just swing at this chicken right here, I would miss it. Same thing if I was to swing this chicken right there, I would miss it because I have to hit it inside of this box. Now this is important to note when it comes to villager breeding systems because you can only have so many of these boxes crammed in the same space. And if you want to get just one out of one space that's like that deep and falls into the void evidently, then how do you get one entity or one object that you can interact with out of a 1x2 space? So here we are at a nearby village, and you can see all the villagers have boxes where you can interact with them. If you right click inside of that box, they will interact with you. Now the red line and the blue line is kind of important when it comes to mob farms of different types because that is their line of sight. That is where their eyes are, and the blue line is the direction they're facing. That's not critically important for this, but it's good to understand that that is how that works. I mean, the golem has got a hitbox. Again, if I swing right there, I won't touch the golem, which is good because he would probably attack me. So how is this important? Well, it's important to know that you are going to have a breeder. You're going to have lots of villagers shoved into a tiny space, and there's a limitation to what you can have in one small space. Okay, so here in front of us we have a typical storage container for villagers that have been breeded. And one is made out of a solid block, like wood, concrete, dirt, etc. This is a solid block. One is made out of a glass block. Now glass is a unique block because it's considered a transparent block, not because it's glass, not because you can see through it, but because you don't take suffocation damage in it. And this is kind of important for a storage system because in order to get a villager out, you don't want them to take damage when they're leaving the storage system, because if they take damage and they think it's your fault, when they get a profession, their trades with you won't be very good. So as an example of what this looks like, we'll throw a couple villagers in here, and we'll throw a couple villagers in here, and you can see underneath this, you see how the boxes of villagers all kind of stack on top of each other nicely because they're shoved in the same space. But if we take this sticky piston and put it right there and throw a lever on it, you can hear all the villagers are taking damage. And you see the blue line here is their eyesight. So you can see that that is actually where their head is. So they just all suffocated to death in that solid block. But if we were to turn this around and put it there and flip the lever, they're not taking suffocation damage because this again is considered a transparent block. This is really important for breeders because again, the last thing you want is for them to take damage when you're trying to get them out of the cell to transport them. So the question becomes, how do you get them out? Well, that is certainly the trick, because getting a system to pull out only one villager at a time rather than letting a complete flood of villagers go everywhere, is not as easy as it sounds, but there is some nice techniques that can be used with these transparent blocks. Okay, with the 1.16 update, we can now put redstone and powered rails on glass blocks, which we didn't used to be able to. And that is what's made this system a whole lot easier. Ever wanted to see a villager explosion? Okay, so now we're going to go over to my Java world, and I'm going to set the system up on my current villager breeder because I haven't done it yet. I was doing it the hard way until I recently figured out how to do this. So I'm going to show you step by step how that's done there, and then I'm going to do it the same thing over again on Bedrock to show you it can be done there as well. And this is necessary because sometimes contraptions in Redstone and Bedrock does not work the same as it does in Java. They just are fundamentally different under the hood, so to speak. It's like a different type of car engine. So let's go to AtlasCraft, and I will show you how to set this up on an active breeder that is full of villagers. Okay, so here we are in AtlasCraft, and my villager breeder is right up this hill and down this tunnel. So immediately there's a few things here we need to take in consideration. First of all, this is a solid block, so I need to get rid of that. And it looks like I'm going to need to dig out a little bit more left to the right of here. And apparently I've got escapees. That's okay. In order to make room for the contraption that's going to pull out one single villager, I'm going to need to finish covering this in glass, again to avoid suffocation damage. So we're going to start by, we're going to put this here. Remove this block, that way they don't explode. Then we're going to put this here. And then we can move this. Alright. So the next thing is we have to figure out what route to use to get them down. This is 3 wide. I think I'm just going to come down this direction. And we'll remove a couple of these blocks here. And we'll come up over this way over the hopper. And then bring them back up this direction. So let me dig this out a little bit. And before I start placing the rails through here, I will come back. Okay, so I believe I have dug out enough space to make this work. So the way this is built, it's a little bit strange, but it works pretty well. You're going to take powered rails right to underneath the block that the villagers are standing on. Put a glass block there. Put a powered rail here. And it makes this rail go up. Then you're going to break this powered rail. And this stays. Then you're going to come up here. And you're going to crouch. And click just the corner. You know how we can see the frame of the hopper. We're not clicking on the villagers. We're clicking on the frame of the hopper. And if we turn on hitboxes, we can see that this hitbox for this villager, or stack of villagers, ends right here. And that one ends right there. And so we know if we click on this corner, we can put the rail down. Now, I know in Bedrock that doesn't happen. You don't have that. But as long as you're not very close to either one of the villagers or their edges of their hitboxes, you can place it even on this tiny little pixel here, and you'll do just fine. Now, once that's there, we place another rail here. Now, we flip this lever, put one there, put a lever here, flip this lever. Now, in theory, this should work. However, it won't. Now, the reason for this is because, as we discussed earlier, this is a transparent block, and the minecart can go through it. This hopper is not. Now, the next question you're asking is, why are they standing on a hopper? Well, because in order to breed villagers, they throw potatoes or carrots in. So that's actually a carrot farm up there, and it's just producing excess food. I don't need this anymore, so I'm okay with getting rid of this. So the question becomes, how do we get these villagers off of this hopper? Short answer, we don't. Because we can't move hoppers with pistons. They're containers. So we do the only thing we can do. We let them run free. We can break this, and we have lots of free villagers. Just as I intended. Now this is the basic pickup system complete. Now all of my villagers have escaped. So I need to wait for a couple more villagers to be bred and to fall into this chamber and to grow up. So I'm going to finish this rail in and out while I wait for that to happen. Come here, kitty. I don't want you ruining the video. Good girl. Alright, so we have a couple of villagers in here. I have turned hitboxes back on. Now, if you remember what I said about hitboxes interacting with each other. So, the minecart has its own hitbox. Like the villagers have their own hitbox. So what happens, because this block is a transparent block and you can't suffocate it, it's not considered a solid block. Minecraft does this really weird thing where it doesn't acknowledge that this block is one level higher than this block. It just sees that this rail and this rail both meet on this vertical line or this axis, depending on your verbiage. So when you push the minecart through, the hitbox from the minecart collides with the hitbox of the villager. And because the minecart only holds one item, one entity, one villager, then it picks up one single solitary villager and moves him down the line. And it does this successfully because this is glass. This would not work with a solid block, as I demonstrated earlier. So if I take this minecart, so what we'll see is it picks up one villager and scoops him away. Now, right now, he doesn't go anywhere because I don't have a need for him at the moment. Maybe I'll make them an orphanage. That might be nice. But that is the basic gist of it. You can see, oh, yeah, my escapee villagers are all over the place. That's the idea. Is this only works because this is A, not a solid block, and B, the game doesn't recognize that these two pieces of rail are not actually on the same Y level, which is what that middle number says 73 and it goes 74 on jump. That's the Y level. That is your elevation up. So due to that weird bit of logic, it doesn't notice the difference. Okay, so here we are on my bedrock realm. I've created the exact same setup that I've got on my Java world. The difference is there's no debug screen, so you can't see how the hitboxes work. But it does function exactly the same way. If I drop a minecart here and give it a gentle nudge, it picks up one villager and pulls them out. Now that you understand why this works, it's easy to be able to apply this to different kinds of farms. You can do the same thing by breeding, say, cattle or sheep or pigs, and again, stick them in a little cell, and then when you want just one or a handful, depending on what you're using it for, you can pick one or a couple up in a couple of different minecarts and cart them off to wherever you need them to go. I think that about covers everything that I was planning on covering in this episode. If there's something I missed, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave comments below, and I will field them to the best of my ability. Thank you for watching. You have a great day. Bye-bye now.